That's JD, that's Obi, and that's Kyle, and that's a QR code right there. Feel free to click on it to learn more about us. This is the Sports Den, and we got a chock full of things we're going to be talking about with you guys today. We're going to be talking about the NBA All-Star Game, third highest of all time, and yet, ironically, not that high compared to some of the previous years. We're also going to be talking a little Major League Baseball. We're going to be discussing the Manny Machado decision to opt out and not really tell the team until they read it on Twitter. Interesting conversation on that one. Talk a little XFL, which will probably be mostly me because, by and large, I watched it more this weekend than probably anybody did. But, gentlemen, how you guys doing?
I'm great.
All right.
Doing good?
Let's roll with this. Let's say, I was going to say, you definitely wanted to talk a little NBA there, so let's make that happen right off the bat.
I like the topic line.
I was wondering if anybody was going to catch that.
Oh, I noticed it.
Whose Line's one of my favorite shows.
It came to me out of nowhere. The final score of this thing was like 350 plus combined points. So thank you. At least somebody's going to get the reference.
There's never defense in all-star games.
And that's why the fans like it. That's one of the reasons. They like that more than they like the slam dunk contest, which some of you guys in the individual group were like, this is really boring.
Well, it tells you a lot if they need to find G Leaguers like Mac McClung to do the All-Star slam dunk contest because nobody else wants to do it.
Obi, go ahead.
Yeah, I that was my first impression, and I've been absorbing it. And what it actually tells you is now that I've learned about who this Mac McClung guy is. This is a guy who's got about a decade of dunk videos under his belt. This is a guy who is a dunker. This is a guy who happens to play basketball, but his real sport is dunking. So what it really showed us is there is no way you're going to get whoever you think the best dunker in modern NBA is today and put him up against Mac McClung and really have him stand a chance. It's a different sport, and we got to see one of the greats of that sport go and do it. And that's what made it, I'm not going to say tantalizing, interesting, because he did four dunks. He made all 4 dunks on his first try, which nobody else even does, right? They don't make it on the first try. They try 7, 8, 10 times. And he did all amazing dunks that felt, kind of new, off the backboard things, over people. So it was a great spectacle, which I guess it's kind of supposed to be. And one of the better spectacles since we saw Griffin jump over a car, which is what the slam dunk contest is supposed to be, like the home run contest. It's supposed to be a spectacle that keeps your eyes on it. The game, can watch. Like, I know we don't want to see defense, but literally guys going,
you want something.
Here you go.
Ole.
Yeah. I don't know if people liked it. I didn't. I found it unwatchable and unbearable. So I don't know, what the numbers were. I'm sure that's usually your area of expertise, Scott. But it was definitely not enjoyable for what little bits I did see of it, and I intentionally tried to watch some.
I haven't watched an NBA All-Star game in probably like 10 years.
I'm looking at those scores. I'm like, I can't even get that when I play video games.
Right?
NBA Jam got nothing.
Because at least the AI in NBA Jam puts up something of a defense. At
Right.
least it blocks your shot instead of just letting them run in for a layup or a
The
dunk.
score after the first half was 99-92. That's a regular NBA final right there. Or NBA final score in a regular season game.
Or at least in past years. I know
the first quarter
score is over 100
now.
Yeah.
The first quarter is higher than some college basketball games all the way through.
The Seton Hall Rutgers game was 45-43 earlier this year. They topped that in the first quarter.
There wasn't that entire game.
Holy crap.
Well, right, and there is a happy medium, but this is just, it's not. It's like, I don't know if you guys saw that high school game. I think it was 4-2 this season, or something crazy like that. But it was. Again, I don't know what their numbers were. Granted, I understand nobody watches it. I happened to be downstairs in my TV room last night for some really unknown reason. And said the All-Star game's coming up. So, okay. Let me see what let me see what this is about because, I need something to watch before that HBO show that from a video game comes on. And I started watching it, and I was like, no, I'll just go upstairs to my room. I'm not even going to. If I don't have something to watch until 10 o'clock, I'm not going to watch that show at 10 o'clock. Literally, that's how my life goes. And this couldn't keep me downstairs till 10 o'clock.
Really?
Yeah. So,
sports in a lot of ways is background noise anyway while you're playing on your phone.
Yeah. For Mac McClung, specifically, as Obi mentioned, the YouTube phenomena surrounding him, I knew that a little bit just from his brief time at Georgetown. Since as another Big East school, so I saw him play a few times, including one time where he almost started a fight against in a game against Seton Hall. He was an immature freshman at the time. Quincy McKnight, Seton Hall point guard at the time, just responded by just pointing up at the scoreboard. So there you go. But McClung is an interesting character where I know he's been, he's kind of a 4A type player bouncing between, 10-day contracts and the G League, but for the fact that they specifically had to call him up from the G League, a few days before the All-Star break. Otherwise, I don't think he played in the NBA yet this season, maybe like a game or two. It's cool. And apparently he won. So good for him. But we are a long way from the days of Jordan versus Dominique Wilkins or even Vince Carter.
It's too community based now, as opposed to rivalry.
I understand that they want to stay healthy, that players want to stay healthy, but this is kind of sad.
It's a different era than it was back in. I'm going to use Pete Rose as an example. The kind of player in any league where they would literally plow over a catcher. You're not going to see that kind of thing in the Pro Bowl. You're not going to see that thing in the NBA All-Star game. You're not going to see that in the NHL All-Star game. Because, again, like you said, it's not only about the fact that basically all these players are worried about getting hurt, and I respect that. It's also the fact that it's such a glorified exhibition now that everybody is just there for the experience and just having fun. And there's no rivalry, especially now. When you got Team Giannis versus Team LeBron, there's no rivalry or contempt in any division or any league anymore.
Let me pose this question slightly different, because we all here know what you're talking about when you say the Pete Rose play.
Yeah.
Are any of us actually remember the Pete Rose play? Because I don't. Does any of us actually truly remember a time when these All-Star games were truly physical and not just fancy expeditions? Because even in Jordan's day, like, oh yeah, Jordan won a bunch of the MVPs because Jordan's a killer, but the rest of the guys were like, oh yeah, let Jordan go be the killer he wants to be. Like that, I remember. They weren't like, I'm not going to play defense against Jordan in this game. Mm-hmm. But so was this Pete Rose being a lunatic? Did the other guys go, yeah, we all want to play like Pete? Or is that because I wasn't alive for that? Like I was alive, but I don't remember it. I just remember that this incident when people talk about it.
You know what I think it is? Obviously, this is 1970 before all of us were alive. But I think in this case, like I said, there was a different era because back then, also the American League and the National League never played each other except for a couple spring training games, the All-Star game, and then, of course, the World Series. So the chance to see the other side, you had a little bit of internal rivalry going on. And then, obviously, interleague play killed that 2002 when it ended in a tie, which changed the literal rules of baseball for a while. In this case here, I think all the sports don't have that kind of division rivalry or playing for pride like they used to. Now it's just about, sitting there, having fun, getting a bunch of points, taking selfies, and just going back to work later on.
For the NBA, you had a little bit of it, I'd say, through the 90s, because you also had Magic, you had, so even the East versus West, even though they did play each other, there was a bit of intrigue as far as, this, because the All-Star games were super teams before everybody just started making their own super teams with whatever franchise happened to have enough cap room for everybody at this, at the same time. So it was a way to see that. But now in the NBA in particular, like, how's this different from hey, let me just get all my buddies and play together? How's that different from every NBA offseason? It isn't anymore.
I mean, I think that's go on, Kyle.
No, go ahead.
No, Kyle, please.
No, I lost train of thought. Go for it.
All right. So, I mean, I think the last time I even saw anything remotely competitive in the NBA, and this goes to the point, is when LeBron didn't take the last shot in the All-Star game. And Kobe yelled at him. And they were on different teams, right? Like they were like, you got to take that shot. And it was like, but does he? I mean, we all know now that in hindsight, the amount of times that LeBron got yelled at for making the right basketball move because that wasn't the player he was. And then it happened in the All-Star game. But still, it wasn't I'm just trying to make sure that we're not trying to wax poetic about something that truly didn't exist. There was a little bit of rivalry in the East-West. Like I said, I remember that game. But Kobe was not on LeBron's team. Like Kobe was yelling at him and he wasn't on his team. Like, so it's still like, a lot of times the MVP was always the home team guy. So like, I remember these things already. It's kind of, I just want to make sure we're not waxing poetic because I feel like we probably are. Yeah. That it was never really good and that the outlier play is Pete Rose. And even when they didn't play each other and that there's a bunch of other guys looking at him like, what are you doing, Charlie Hustle? Like, you're making the rest of us look bad in the game we don't care about.
I think it may just be individual. Go ahead, Kyle.
Well, that's kind of the thing. It has always been a lighter game that compared to say like the regular season games, but it keeps getting more and more. I'm not gonna say casual, but it's become more and more of like a celebrity spectacle than a showcase of the best players in the league. Like we are a long ways away of Larry Bird winning a 3-point contest in a warm-up jacket.
Well, I mean, go back long enough. You remember, Bird versus Johnson or Jordan, East and West. So sorry.
It was still there. It's like there was still some competition there. They weren't going all out. They weren't trying to hurt each other. They were trying to stay healthy, but they were still trying to put on a game. They were still trying to be. It felt that they were still trying to be competitive. Going back with the difference between Kobe and LeBron. Kobe yells at him, and it's like because that's Kobe's personality because he's always trying. Yeah, he might not be 110%, but he's still going at a competitive level. Having LeBron just kind of just lay up and just stop.
Pete Rose in that same bucket is like.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that certain personality. You don't see that anymore. So it's a competitive personality, and you don't see it as much nowadays, especially in an All-Star game.
I mean, we know Bird's is an all-time trash talker, all-time great player, all-time competitive dude. And yet, wearing his warm-up jacket is like, hey, I don't even have to try as hard. But it's also a sign that he wasn't trying as hard.
Yes.
I mean, that's the thing.
Exactly.
He did dial it back a little bit. Always been my impression. Like, I'm dialing it back, and I still beat you. I'm not just wearing this jacket, and then I'm going to go hard. I'm wearing this jacket. And
yeah.
Was that the same year that he showed up saying, okay, who's going to finish second today? I think that was the same.
Probably.
Yeah, I think that was the same year.
Yeah, it was like I think that was that his second or third time winning it where he did that.
That was the third. Like he really
that was
didn't
the
care.
third time. At that point, he didn't care because he knew he was going to win.
Really didn't, So,
yeah.
But I think, and then this year was a particularly bad game. But like 2 or 3 years ago, the game wasn't as bad in the fourth quarter. But this game was out of hand in the fourth quarter to the point where you couldn't even force that comeback to make it an interesting game. So, these games are a little cyclical. Cyclical is not the right word because that would mean that they were predictable what years are good and bad. But the fact is there are some years that are particularly bad. This year was one of them. And there's other years where you're like, oh, okay, there's a little something on the line. And it goes for all sports. I don't think we even did a talk about the flag football game. I don't think we saw that at all. And the one thing I just like to think about, or what you got here, your guys' thought on, and I know we don't have a lot of time before we move on to this, is so we saw Mac come in and do something that probably even the best NBA in-game dunkers are not going to do. Like, is it worth the NBA going, guess what? We're going to pay these guys who think that they are superstar dunkers have a little competition working up and make the championship during the NBA All-Star Weekend, whether they're G Leaguers or NBA players, have little tournaments that lead up to, and so that we as fans are drawn in to watch that mega slam dunk contest. Is it worth it? Because, hey, we're not going to see the guys we know and love play. I mean, look, Zach LaVine a few years ago was good, and they did that a few years. But most of the time, the guys who are great in basketball aren't going to be smashing their knees trying to do that.
So, but it makes me think. It's like, yeah, we have these we have the G Leaguers and whatnot. What makes that any different from just a random exhibition somewhere? Like the NBA All-Star Game is billed as the showcase of the NBA players, and then you have a crowd of G Leaguers and YouTubers who admittedly they are great dunkers, they're not NBA players. Yeah. So it's like what's the difference between this and some random super duper dunk contest out in California?
You can go to Rucker Park at any random night during the summer. You could see just as good.
Exactly.
But
for less than half the price.
We're a social media following era now.
Mm-hmm.
And the bigger your social media following, the more clout you got. Literally, there's a website called Clout, which shows how powerful you are on social media right now. It's such easy branding.
I'm not trying to convince this argument one way or the other. It's just it was like, what do you guys think? And I'm not proposing it. There's sometimes I say, what do you guys think? I like this idea. The flip side to your conversation is when you go to a con, whatever that con is, right? And so is going to be there, and that's the main draw. You want so-and-so's autograph. They want to hear him on the panel. But you spend a good time on your at the con, snapping pictures of amateurs in cosplay who are just doing it. Yep. And that's, for me, most of the cons I've been to, that's the best part, are just the people who are, this is what I want to hang out. So I'm not saying there's something else.
I guess dressed as Bloody the Elf, let's say.
Right, exactly. Write articles on it, which you can find if you scan our code.
But the amount of
scan the code
that gets now, man.
Yeah, right over there.
Yeah. The amount of interviews that kid, Jim Cummings, Rob Paulson, the biggest voice people, Sonny Strait, the voice of Krill, and I still got to finish that one. Mm-hmm. But he's crushing it over there. He was talking to me on Saturday night. He's like, so we have this event in September with William Shatner. What do you want me to do? It's like, dude, it's September and Saturday night. We can come back to this.
That's planning in advance, I guess.
Dude, I respect that. I love it. But,
But going back to the All-Star Game,
sorry.
There needs to be some form of competition. It's like I think the pendulum swung a little too far off to the casual size. Needs to go back to at least make it a game, make it a competition instead of just a showcase of back down the court,
the winner gets home court advantage throughout this the NBA.
They tried that with baseball.
I know.
We should an actual sporting event outcome or consequences like this.
I like the idea, but the execution was poor.
Well, Fox was so badass about it. Like, this time it counts.
It's personal.
We got like Don LaFontaine to do the voice.
If you want to make the NBA All-Star Game competitive, I think, and you don't want to change it to a 1-on-1 format or a 3-on-3 format, I think the way to make the game competitive next time is to take something the NHL did. And let's see it. Let's take the 5 best USA against the 5 best international players.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because
they have the Olympics for that.
No, you have 4 guys you never heard of, and Luka competing against 5 Americans are all-stars. I mean, I want to see.
That's an idea.
Yeah, I mean, and that team is incredible because it's Giannis, Joker, Embiid, Luka, and somebody else, but. I mean, those are 4 of the guys who are in the MVP conversation. So it would be
Right now, it just feels more like a glorified and one competition.
Yeah, pretty much.
Considering that a glorified and one competition is now an Olympic sport, as in 3-on-3, then that has legitimized it. And I think some kind of 3-on-3 format, like what the NHL does now, is they have the teams are split into the 4 divisions. And they'll play 2 short games games. They'll play a few short
One
games,
period each, yeah.
and then they'll play 2 semifinals and then a final. In a truncated format. I don't know how long it is because I don't watch that either. But that seems. But experimenting with a concept like that, I think would be cool.
Yeah. Anything.
The other part is it also seems like half of them don't even want to be there.
They really
don't.
They're there.
Well, the NFL started moving the Pro Bowl to Hawaii to try and make players show up, and we see where that ended up after.
And then I think Vegas for a while too. Yeah, because the Pro Bowl, nobody cares about that either.
Right. These are useless in every sport.
I thought the flag football thing was fun, but with the NHL, with the NFL one, it does feel like just like a preseason team day.
I don't even know who won.
Not Peyton Manning.
No,
I know that because he got angry at there was something he got angry at the last play of the game. I don't even know.
Which means that he's still competitive.
It was Peyton versus Eli, wasn't it?
Yeah. Eli won, and Peyton was pissed. He thought the last play there should have been a flag.
The exact opposite of the Super Bowl.
Right.
Oh,
right.
Geez, yeah. Well, we talked on High and Mighty about that one last week too, and what that's going to mean. We'll get to the XFL, and I'll have my little rant on that and the bombshell that I learned the other day. But in this case, Kyle, you wanted to talk baseball.
Yes, I did. Yes. Now that football,
the floor is yours. However you want to roll.
Yeah, now that football is done, we are back to my favorite sport in baseball, and quite a big thing coming out with Manny Machado basically saying, "Yeah, I'm opting out at the end of the season, opting out of what was like 3-4 years ago, a massive contract. It's shades of A-Rod with this one.
Oh, even worse.
I feel so. I feel that this is like shades of A-Rod, where he is calling he's opted out, saying that the market has changed because of the new CBA, and it's I'm looking at it and it's like, why am I getting deja vu? And then I remembered when A-Rod opted out, well, with a little less fanfare and a little less fanfare in me first. It was just
from the news leaking during the World Series.
Yeah. Aside from that, it's like I kudos to the guy for going for a larger contract, but then it kind of leaked out what he was asking for.
Yeah.
How
much is he looking for, by the way, as a 30-year-old player?
Something like $400 million over 10 years.
He wants Aaron Judge.
Yeah, he basically wants
Aaron Judge numbers.
He basically wants the contract that the Padres offered Aaron Judge.
You know, in
this offseason. And honestly, I think that might be the exact reason why he's opting out. Why is because he saw what was being thrown at players like Judge and Xander Bogaerts and Verlander and DeGrom.
Lindor
and
held out for a little
specifically
more money to get more than Machado.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and it's like I get understand where he's coming from, but it's like you're probably not gonna get that. Mm-hmm. And if you are that, whoever gives that to you is basically going to be destroyed.
What's his contract now?
Hang on a second.
He just had it up. It's like
he's into a 13-year deal or something.
Yeah. It was originally 30 million a year until the age of 35. So 2028 was going to be his last year. 30 million every single year until age 35, which is 2028.
So basically expecting more. Now he's expecting more than 30 a year for the next.
He's turning down $150 million to bet on himself. Let's just point that out.
Which is great. I love it when they bet on themselves. But it's like there's a difference between Manny Machado and Aaron Judge.
Yes. You know what's funny? I'm looking at this right now. Last year, Manny Machado's WAR was 6.8. Aaron Judge's WAR was 10.6.
Yeah.
And the projections for Manny Machado this year, what they believe is going to be, is batting 281, 26 home runs, 90 RBIs. That is the projection with an OPS of 840. Yeah. That's not $30 million money. That's not even forget 40.
Here's the thing. I do not begrudge any athlete or anybody who has the opportunity to make this kind of money making an extra $10 million a year. What I do think these guys need to know, or at least when you're already making $30 million a year, that extra $10 million a year is about your ego. And you need to know that that's about your ego, because now baseball, it's less likely to hurt your team overall. I'm really talking to guys like, Daniel Jones. Like, are you going to go for 20 or 30 or
change his agent, by the way?
Right. Or Jalen Hurts when it's your turn. Because the thing is, the guy who didn't take the money, Voldemort, I mean, he took a lot of money. But he won some championships by taking slightly less. Now, Machado's obviously like, hey, I'm announcing this now. Does he have to go through with it at the end of the season, or is this just the rule that how he has to announce it the year before? Or at the end of the year, can he go, oops, had a bad year, I'm not opting out?
If he put the, I guess he put the paperwork in.
No, I don't think it's. I think he announced it. I don't think he's put the paperwork in yet. It's like he's basically saying that he's going to, but that's just like saying something. If he's just saying it and it comes down to the end of the season, he's like either gets hurt or he has a crappy season. He's not binded to that. By just saying it, he's not binded to it.
Here's another issue. An issue for Machado and any player that's about to be free, that's going to be looking for a new contract in baseball. He can talk about the new CBA and everything all he wants, but there's one tiny problem. The source of the biggest chunk of local Major League Baseball team revenue for half the teams in the sport, including the Padres, is Bally Sports, who's about to declare bankruptcy, resulting in massive revenue hits for all of these teams. And Manfred and Big Baseball behind the scenes are in big time panic mode, where the revenue stream is based mostly on local TV revenue, which comes from RSNs, regional sports networks, for MLB, NBA, and the NHL. Bally Sports, who's a holder of about 14 baseball teams, I believe, and about the same in NBA and NHL, is the biggest one. They're about to default on their debt. AT&T Sports, who has a few other teams, also missed a payment. Because of cord cutting, the old cable model of revenue is collapsing.
Yep.
It's collapsing faster, while eventually this may result in some kind of actual a streaming viewing option for major league teams that doesn't involve ridiculous blackouts and the inability for people to even watch their own team in their area. What that means is a massive revenue hit for these teams. So the Padres are about to lose their big incoming revenue stream, and Machado is turning around to saying, "Hey, I want 40 million a year." Where's it coming from?
He's gonna get the boot. He's flat out gonna get the boot if he does opt out.
The only person it's coming from is the person who is the owner who doesn't have to worry about this, and that's Uncle Stevie.
And there's
and a lot of the large market teams aren't going to be hit as hard from it. Yankees, Red Sox, Mets, Dodgers. They're going to be fine. It's every other team that's been throwing out these absurd contracts are going to be hit.
Yankees didn't take him. So,
is there a team option for Machado a little further down the line? Because I wonder if that's what he's actually thinking.
Like, he can opt out of 20. No, he has an opt out after 2023 and a 6-team no trade clause, but nothing in there about what you're talking about.
Okay, because I was wondering if he was worried that they were going to opt out at a time when he couldn't recoup because of this money situation.
But what I will say, though, is actually he is also a 10-5 player now. So he would have to approve any trade. So if the Padres are going to dump him just to try and get something back, he would have to approve the location.
Yes, absolutely.
Plus, you said there's a no trade in there anyway.
There is a no trade, but in this case here, there's a no trade to 6 teams specifically. But in this case, and now that he just clicked over 10-5, so he would actually have to approve anywhere he goes, and that might have some impact on this a little bit. I think the Padres would be probably smart to try to trade him if they're just going to give up, because they have Soto, they got Tatis. It's not like the worst thing to lose Manny Machado, but maybe you dump him to, I don't know, the Mets. The Mets will take him.
Oh, absolutely.
The Mets are free agency. They're not going to give up assets to get him.
Well, it also depends on if they go after Ohtani. If they swing and miss on Ohtani, yeah, then they'll probably be throwing basically backing up the Ohtani money on and just dumping it onto Machado. But
Uncle Stevie has a bottomless pit of money. He'll go
Dude,
after everybody.
no, he absolutely does.
He's going to bankrupt Major League Baseball, and we're going to love the ride as it happens.
Oh, I love it. It's like Steinbrenner in the 70s.
Yeah,
70s and 80s.
I think it's worse, dude. I think it's worse. Because Steinbrenner, I mean, okay, he paid like $5 million.
Only a Yankee. I mean, I know both of you Yankee fans, but only a Yankee fan. Like anything's worse than Steinbrenner. I know you're seeing the light through the haze. And Scott's trying to defend. No, it's not worse than Steinbrenner.
No, well, you know what it is? Because here's the thing. I just read something that back in 1992, Barry Bonds signed a 2-year, $22 million deal back in 1992. And that to me is changing why I'm saying what I'm saying. It was literally 31 years ago today. And it was 1992. Cool. So that was 10 or $11 million back in that money. So that's why I'm holding back just a tiny bit on the whole Steinbrenner aspect of it, because it's like, well, San Francisco paid him $11 million a year. I mean, Bobby Bonilla, we have that, both contracts on that. So was Steinbrenner unique? Yes. Is Uncle Stevie like Steinbrenner? Yes. But Uncle Stevie might be more Steinbrenner than Steinbrenner ever was.
Why? Remember why he signed with San Francisco? That was the team of his youth.
Yeah.
He signed with there wasn't. Here's a guy who had the money. There wasn't enough money if you're going to get $11 million not to go play where you wanted to play. The team your dad played for, the team Willie.
I'm pretty sure isn't Willie Mays
his godfather? Yeah. It's godfather and father. I mean, he was going to the Giants as soon as he had a chance to make.
He has a lot of family in baseball.
Yeah, right. And also Bobby Bonds, I believe, also played for the Yankees and had a bad time. But he had a bad experience playing for the Yankees.
That 80s, 90s.
So did Griffey Sr.
Yeah, exactly.
I was gonna say there's a reason why Ken Griffey Jr. said that he would retire if he went to the Yankees, because they treated his dad like crap. And honestly, after I read and learned more about it, I'm like, the guy had a good point. He had a good point.
Bonds had a similar experience.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like it's gonna be an interesting offseason next season, depending on what happens in terms of like the broadcasting rights. But it's like, I'm also thinking of it this way. Machado, he's asking for more money, but would he be put on a better team? Because right now he's surrounded by a really good team.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I'm looking at, I'm like, I understand you want more money, but do you want to? Yeah, you could. Then again, yeah, you could wipe away your tears with $100 bills, but it's like, you're gonna be like, what's probably gonna be what Jacob deGrom's gonna be going with. Yeah, he's a great player, but he's still gonna be missing the playoffs. It's like Trout and Ohtani. Yeah, two of the best players in the league. Do you want money or do you want titles? One of the exceptions is Judge. He's getting a crap ton of money and he's surrounded by a good team because Yankees. But it's
Tito.
I mean, like,
good enough to all but guarantee a playoff trip. I'll put it that way.
That is true. Yeah. That'll give you that.
But we don't know that Machado has where he's willing to go. Again, like,
that's true.
It might want. Yeah,
your newest Baltimore Oriole, Manny Machado.
Hey, don't forget, Reggie Jackson spent a year over there too.
I know. Well, I think the Orioles are actually one of his no trade teams.
Probably, yeah.
But that was probably based on their situation at the time. Now, granted, their situation hasn't got much better.
Which means that he would have to waive his no trade clause. Blah 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 blah.
It's funny.
Is Machado making more than the entire Orioles payroll right now?
Probably. It doesn't take much right now for that. Same thing with like the Reds and the Cubs.
It's funny when you look at these contracts. I mean, a lot of them actually aren't Yankees, but you look at how Don Mattingly, $3.8 million over 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of them, believe it or not, are not actually Yankees. Winfield's in there, okay, fine.
Yeah.
But Mark Davis, Will Clark, Jose Canseco, Roger Clemens.
It really wasn't until like A-Rod, where the Yankees were had the top paid player.
Yeah.
What the Yankees did, they didn't have the top paid player. They had the top pay role
roster.
So,
yes, they had like a lot of like they had, it was basically you had like your top 3 players, and then like then like 5 through 15 was like Yankees. But
like Giambi when he came over. I mean,
hated that deal.
But yes.
Yeah. I remember that Piazza.
But it brought over.
Well, he replaced Tino Martinez, who was.
Well, it brought over the golden underwear.
Yeah, the Piazza.
And no World
a
Series.
7-year, $91 million deal that was a high.
No World Series for Giambi.
baseball
Oh
player.
right, no, he left. You're right. It was you're right.
Because he came in 2002. The only time he ever went to the World Series was 2003 when they lost to the Marlins.
Yeah, and then we had that long stretch, and then when Teixeira came, and the Yankees actually had a first baseman who could play defense, then they started showing life again.
But that was basically Giambi and Mike Mussina, just much like Don Mattingly, missed the window.
Mussina was literally bookended by it.
Yeah, he was.
Just like Mattingly was.
Went to the World Series, lost a no-hitter to David Cohn. Perfect game against David Cohn one day. Carl Everett, I think, had the bottom of the ninth single. But 2001, he came in right after the Yankees won 3 straight. He retired after 2008, and then they won in 2009.
Messina is one of my favorite players. So it's like guy definitely had a Hall of Fame career, and he deserved the induction.
He was a quiet Hall of Famer, though. He really didn't draw a lot of attention. He just did his
job. Yeah, I'm just trying to think. Like we just had like another really quiet Hall of Famer pitcher. Like I can't remember the guy's name. Honestly, he might have been inducted via Veterans Committee, but no, like even then, Scott Rowland was kind of quiet. Was a quiet player too.
Scott Rowland wouldn't have gotten in better years.
No, he wouldn't.
Or if they let the best guys into the Hall of Fame instead of saying, well, we're not going to let them in because we don't like steroids.
Scott Rowland's only in because he's one of his numbers are comparable to other third basemen in the Hall of Fame, which is one of the weakest positions. Same with second base and Jeff Kent, who will probably, I think Kent will get in through veterans.
Yeah, I think. Then again, no.
A-Rod was a better third baseman than
he was. He was.
Put those numbers out there.
A-Rod will eventually get in, but it's going to still take a few years.
A-Rod, I think, is going to be Veterans Committee.
I think
with Bonds too.
I don't think A-Rod's getting in because the other two don't get in. A-Rod's not as good as
they're probably going to go all be plopped in together.
You have to wait for the sports writers with hate boners to retire.
The way the Veterans Committee comes in, the way the voting works, all 3 would have to be agreed on 70. Yeah. It's crazy. I don't think it's going to happen.
It's specific, but
steroids era committee to judge.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's how you get in the Bonds. That's how you get in Bonds. That's how you get in Clemens. That's how you'll get in A-Rod. Even though Ortiz already got in, but.
Right.
But he's charismatic, and that's what sells. If you're moody,
Well, so was Manny. Manny Ramirez was charismatic too, but he didn't get in.
Manny had some problems.
So was McGuire. McGuire was charismatic.
Yeah.
But McGuire was also straight in the face of the whole steroid issue too, because he had to testify again. He had to testify in Congress. It was his testimony that gave credence to Jose Canseco, because he kept saying, under advisement of my attorney, I can't say anything. And suddenly people were like, "Holy crap!" Jose Canseco was right about this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, everything Jose Canseco said turned out to be right. By the way, another guy who could arguably be in, except boy, talk about not charisma. Whatever the negative term that means charisma is, I think it's Well,
you can say that about Barry Bonds too. Negative charisma. But he was outright argumentative.
Bonds was at least open about it. Like he was open about not giving an F that anybody thought. Yeah. So at least
he was consistent.
From when he was. That's probably what his father just go play. Ignore these people. You're gonna be good. You'll get money.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's the funny thing when you look at somebody like, Manny Ramirez, who by the way was still playing in like Australian leagues and things like that in Korea up until very recently, the last couple of years.
I think like I know that. Like Manny Ramirez is one of those players like Ichiro. He just finds a league and just jumps in and plays.
Yeah.
Jamie Moyer, same. I think he was like recently pitching and he's like 60.
I heard Ricky Henderson was still playing.
league in the Czech Republic, and he's like 52.
Yeah.
I mean,
And you know what? Good
One
on
of
them.
those teams that's going to crush it in the World Baseball Classic.
Oh, I can't wait for the World Baseball Classic. I am disappointed that the U.S. lost 2 good pitchers due to either injury risk or no insurance for some. It's like how, what? The Clayton Kershaw, like taking himself out while he's not hurt because he couldn't get an insurance policy. What type of insurance agency pulled that crap on him?
Right,
Maybe someone with
but it's not like he has.
Well, wait,
I understand he's 35, but you have enough money to get a policy.
Yeah.
No, the policy is going to be for
insurable.
his entire. Because the policy would be for everything he's currently making
Mm-hmm.
and signed for, plus anything he would argue that he could make on the next deal. That's a lot of money for. Yeah,
Oh, so like a Lloyd's of London insurance policy.
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
sure.
God.
He's,
Oh God, remember that on the test?
I didn't study for that one. No, I am. Yeah, no, it's disappointing to see some of those pitchers not basically have to jump out, because that really hurts the U.S. because pitching is their weak point, and having Kershaw, who is arguably one of their best pitchers, because now I think their number one is Wainwright, and the other one being Nestor Cortez, who is crazy entertaining to watch, and apparently he really wanted to play. So it's like, I am disappointed in that, and that really hurts the U.S.'s chances to repeat, because right now Dominican Republic looks scary as per usual. Japan looks scary as per usual. Honestly, it's like this is probably the World Baseball Classic where almost every team could be argued that they're going to go far. Like in the past years, yeah, you had your Dominican Republic, you had your U.S., you had your Japan, Puerto Rico, and then it's just like basically a big pile of But this year they have a lot of really good teams.
There's a lot of international flavor with this. So you got a lot of U.S. players that are playing for Israel, for example.
Piazza's coach in Italy.
What's that?
Piazza's coach in Italy.
Yes. So you get that.
I love it.
Stuff with it.
I love that. Yeah. It's like I'm looking at the Italian team. I'm like, okay, this is actually a really entertaining team. I like this.
Yeah, Cuba usually puts a pretty good squad together.
Well, you expect that from Cuba, yeah.
Yes.
And any of the Central America era.
And the other thing with Cuba, they're letting major league players on the roster this year.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, this is not Fidel's Cuba anymore.
This is great. And it's like I'm looking at, I'm like, ooh, I can't wait for the World Baseball Classic. Absolutely can't wait for it,
man. 2.5 weeks.
Yep, 2.5 weeks. And honestly, I think next week I kind of want to go into more of a WBC rundown.
We can do that. I will just say one thing as we close on that.
Yeah.
Netherlands, Didi Gregorius is playing.
Didn't he play?
Didi's back.
I was going to say, didn't he play on the Netherlands last WBC as well?
Well, he's
And Sidney Ponson.
But he's from Curaçao, I think. But Sir Didi Gregorius, legally knighted.
Yeah, didn't he? I was going to say he actually has dual citizenship.
Yes,
I think he grew up in Netherlands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
and,
so I'm really cool to see him.
Yes.
This is going to be probably me on this one. I think in this case, we're going to talk a little XFL, or probably I'm going to be doing most of the talking because, well, I remember XFL 1. XFL 2 was literally the first sports league I ever covered, and I have some really fond memories of it. XFL 3, not bad. As you can see down there, take 3, less fun, but probably more successful. This case here, the fact that Rock and Dany Garcia are involved, which, by the way, I don't know about you guys, but I can never work with any of my exes. And you build an entire league with your married ex-wife. Can we just point that out?
That is impressive for them.
By the way, speaking of, in this case here, I just want to show you this picture real quick. I'm going to do it this way. Dude on the right is Dany Garcia's ex-husband. Dude on the left is Dany Garcia's current husband. Do you think she has a type?
Just a bit.
Well, if the arms are, if the biceps are bigger than her head, I guess.
Yeah, well, but I mean, listen, dude's freaking jacked. But Yeah, I just found that really, really funny because I was looking him up. I was like, the guy doesn't have a Wikipedia page. What does he look like here? And I figured, okay, he's like an investment advisor or an accountant or something like that. The dude can rival The Rock, and it's like Dany clearly has a type of guy that she's interested in here. You know, people that are in far better shape than I am or will ever be. So,
honestly, no. Kudos to The Rock. Guy takes care of himself really well.
Yeah, you know,
kudos to the guy.
His name is Dave
He's bigger
Ryan.
now than when he was wrestling.
You know,
it's like he's not really doing as much cardio. He's doing he bulks up for movies.
Yeah, you know, and he
doesn't have to be taking the bumps. He doesn't have to be like having to always constantly be stretched out, etc., etc.
I think one of his brothers is stunt guy too. So that certainly helps in this case here. But
there's a pile of cousins still in the WWE.
Oh yeah. And it's funny because it's whole lineage aspect of everybody with The Rock and everything. This is the league itself, and if you notice, by the way, one of the biggest problems that I find with this is that you have 3 teams in Texas. You have Orlando, you have Vegas, DC, St. Louis, and also Seattle. You have nothing in our area outside of DC. And this, I think, hurts the league a little bit from the market standpoint because that entire tri-state, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut tri-state, just to clarify that one with some people that think Delaware is part of it.
More importantly than that, really, I-95, Boston, New York, Philly.
Yes. Yeah. You know, I mean, okay.
And not only that,
Washington sort of works for Philly, but, you know, go ahead, Kyle.
It misses the major metropolitan areas. Not only for the East Coast, West Coast as well. Nothing LA.
Yeah.
They do have
nothing LA, nothing California. It is literally southwest or southeast US with
St. Louis.
With St. Louis,
yeah.
Seattle.
This is the USFL here, and you got a lot more of a spread here because you got
generals.
Michigan, you got Birmingham, Houston, New Orleans, Tampa. Okay, you don't have anything necessarily in the West there either, but you've got a little bit more of a north-south array going on.
But also, the USFL isn't actually playing in their home stadiums yet.
They're working on that little by little. That's hurting them some, but
yeah, but for XFL, they're playing in those cities, right?
Yes, they are.
The city that they should try that if this XFL 3.0 makes it another year to get an East Coast presence where they should go because the thing I see on here, yes, I see the lack of major markets. Also, who can give you a stadium rent deal cheap enough to make it worth it? You're not getting that in New York and Boston.
You don't have
or
the
LA. But you know where they might. You know where they might get it, and where I think that they should go. Hartford, Rensselaer Field is a decent venue.
That would give you that northeast thing that you don't have right now. Yeah. You know, I think this hurts the league a little bit, like I said, because you're not getting that expansion out. Now, one of the things that I found out and I read about and I told you guys about, from the Hall of Fame game in the beginning of August to the end of the USFL Championship, we have 47 straight weeks of professional football in the United States. And then we have a month off, and then bam, the 2023 Hall of Fame game starts up.
Well, I mean, okay, your definition of professional football, right? People getting paid, right? That's it, because what
are you talking about?
The Hall of Fame game is not professional football.
But my point is that here in the U.S., it's just nonstop. It's almost 52 weeks of some kind of professional football.
I get your point. I get your point. I mean, but it's always been that way if you counted Arena for when Arena used to be around.
Yeah, but Arena was always kind of slow. I mean, this was ABC here. This was Fox. One of the things that I think is going to hurt this, though, and I am severely missing this, is there will probably never be another beer snake. The biggest thing that I loved about the XFL the last time around is not only did they create this one of the largest beer snakes of all time in DC, but the commissioner of the league, Oliver Luck, by the way, Andrew Luck's father, he contributed his own beer cups to it. And that kind of human aspect of it, I think, is what made the XFL work so well. You're not going to probably see The Rock do something like that. He's too professional. And as a result, I think the league is going to have a little less fun, but it's still going to succeed. It's still going to do its job. And the players are obviously having a good time. But I personally loved that kind of aspect of it because it added such a human factor to guys that were getting paid $75,000 to $250,000 a year to play on a national stage. I'm going to miss this. If this does not happen, I'm going to be very, very disappointed.
It's not happening. They tried to do it, and they stopped them. They threw lemons on the field.
Dude, there were fans that would give players beer, and the players would drink the beer on the sidelines. I love that human interaction to it. The NFL can take a lesson from that.
Here's the other thing I learned about the X. I've learned, it was covered enough that I learned some things about it. Now the XFL, it was extreme back in the days when X meant extreme.
Extreme.
And they had different, that the point was that these guys could just literally kill each other. We get to watch the most gladiatorial. That was the selling. That's what they sold it as the first time around. I don't know if that was true or not. But now they have this modified kickoff that I saw where you don't kill each other. As a matter of fact, it's made to be extra safe. Don't know, if they should be calling themselves the XFL. Although I do like the
extra
the
safe
onside.
XL.
I do like the onside kick. I think that's the way
the
it
fourth
has
and
to.
15. Yeah,
The fourth and 15.
That's a great move there. That is a very smart move, I think.
I don't like the 1, 2, or 3-point conversion.
I do, actually.
Well, if you want to do that, you still let the one be a kick.
Yes.
There is a lot less kicking involved in this league now, isn't there?
Yeah.
Which is a shame because it's still part of the game, and have it as a kick, but have that 1 point be kicked by the quarterback or something like that. If you don't want to hire like an extra kicker, fine, but it gives the Doug Flutys of the world
350-pound center. Let's have him kick.
Exactly. Just have a player that normally plays on your offense kick.
Well, I used to do that with Madden. I used to make all my players like 400 pounds, and it's hilarious to watch a place kicker at 400 pounds.
400 pounds, 99 speed.
Dude, yeah, 99 speed. But the problem is my quarterbacks were really, really bad.
All they're doing is running anyway. Who cares? It's like, who cares if they can't throw the ball 5 feet? They just hand it off.
I remember the NFL Blitz video game where they had a rule where if you pick the extra point, they would just give you the extra point, or you could try for two. Like you didn't actually.
That was Blitz the league.
That was that was back then. I mean, 22-yard right down the middle.
Yeah,
it was.
That was Blitz the league. So.
I will say, and I'm going to probably close on this. I just want to say one more thing. I'll let you guys have your, anything you want to say. This here, honestly, was one of the coolest moments that I've ever seen in professional sports. Austin Prohl, who basically has been a journeyman throughout both the NFL and the original XFL 3 years ago. His father, Ricky Prohl, who had a 17-year career and won 2 Super Bowls, is the quarterback coach for the St. Louis Battlehawks. When Ricky's son caught the game-winning touchdown right at the very end of the game with less than a minute to play, his dad came over and hugged him. And I thought basically that is such a field of dreams moment that somehow just slipped right under the radar. But I thought that was such a cool, father-son moment there. And I thought that was, I don't know, just nice. That's all I can say to that. But
how long were the quarters in this game?
What's 4 quarters?
How many minutes of the quarters?
15.
And that was the final score?
Yes, it was. I know. Well, this has been one of the complaints that has existed. The fact that there hasn't been a lot of scoring and a lot of turnovers have turned into like pick 6, for example. So, I know, dude. But listen, this is not NFL football. This is AAA football. You have to accept it for them.
There aren't enough quarterbacks or kickers to fill out 32 NFL teams. So they really need to go down in talent in order to fill out rosters for now multiple spring and summer leagues.
Which means you should change your rules such that you de-emphasize passing and re-emphasize running.
You might. Now, one thing I will say that's probably hurting this is the fact that you have a lot of XFL carryovers from last year. Players that played on the XFL last year that are coming back to their same team this year. So you've diluted your pool for the XFL a little bit for right now, just because of the fact that you've lost that that USFL pool this time.
Yeah.
So USFL players can't play in the XFL and vice versa.
Correct.
Is that what you're saying?
So a lot of those players are already under contract to come back to for this year. So you've lost a little bit, at least in that regard, which does suck a little bit. But I think the XFL this time around will work. COVID killed it last time around. Really bummed me out because I was getting into like MetLife Stadium for the first time ever. I said, "Oh my God, this is amazing."
Didn't they have a New York team?
We were kind of low end trash, but still, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I was about to say, wasn't there a New York team in the previous
the New York Guardians,
both
now they were
previous incarnations?
If you look over there, you can actually see that gray thing. It's in the back. That is the binder that they gave me on week 1. I never used it. All my other people that worked with me used it. I'm like, I am not writing in this thing. And I'm very glad I didn't. I'm happy I didn't. But yeah, since they're in Orlando, it's kind of a more of a collector's piece than anything else. So, all right, gentlemen, anything else you got? Or you think we're good?
Not on this subject, no.
I think we're good.
Cool.
I can take a few minutes to do Seton Hall real quick.
Sure, go for it.
Just for their recap, another rough week for the men's side. They did win against Georgetown on Valentine's Day, and so they did. So they avoided that landmine, and they held in tough against UConn, which in a impossible environment where they had several players hurt, and playing up in Gamble Pavilion is brutal for a road team playing up at UConn. But they hung in there for most of the game before losing 64 to 55. It's one thing to be a defense first team, but if you can't even score 60 on a regular basis, as has been the issue, you're not going to win very many games. So they have a big one this Friday against Xavier. So they don't have a midweek game, so they have some time for some banged up players to heal up. But so they're not out of the NCAA tournament conversation yet, but they need to beat Xavier. This is a must win, or that's probably pretty much it.
Sure.
Or they need to do damage in the Big East tournament in Madison Square Garden. But they're still playing meaningful games in late February. So we'll see what happens there. I know Nova has been playing better with now that they're coming back towards full strength. So we have Seton Hall playing Xavier this Friday, and then they have their last home game on Tuesday against Villanova again. The women's team, they went 2-1 this past week. They split against DePaul, beat Xavier 72-59 at their senior night. They play at Butler, and then Villanova at home on Monday for the women's team's last two regular season games. Both teams, oddly enough, are right in the middle of the pack, 6th place in the Big East, and winning. And they've won 9 Big East games, oddly enough, and they're both right on the edge of the NCAA tournament. So
All right.
we'll see. So we'll see what happens this week. It's looking a little tough with the injuries and playing shorthanded, but they're still in this. They pulled off a big win against UConn early.
And I think we lost him.
Yeah. So yeah, I can see his connection right now. Oh well. So
Yep, it's just yeah.
These things do happen.
Mhm.
That's what happens when you try badmouth UConn.
Yeah.
You're back.
and he's back.
All right, now I'm back. All right, so we'll see what happens. So we'll see what happens. Shoot your best shot against Xavier this Friday. Should be close to a sellout crowd. It's Greek night, so the students should be well lubricated, which usually provides for an interesting experience.
They grabbed all the grease from the poles in Philly.
Yeah, right. So
not that kind of lubrication, more like
you can't take it back, man.
You saw the end of the Providence Villanova game. That's what happens when you have a bit too much 22-ounce lubrication, as they did up in Providence, where they were throwing beer at each other.
No, Nova can't beat ranked teams this year.
Nova, also Providence is a very tough place to play. I think they've only lost one game at home in the past 2 seasons.
And I think it was to Nova last year.
But Nova was a Final Four team this year.
Yes.
Not this year.
No.
Seton Hall
not this year.
As their last game on March 4th is up in Providence. So if they need to win, so that'll be that's another game that's why I say they need these next 2 wins, because I do not see that Providence win happening.
Fair enough.
But they're not out of it yet, but the time to wake up is now.
Running out of time, sir. So
It's getting kind of heavy.
Yeah. All right, folks. I appreciate it. Thanks as always, Mr. Obie Spencer, Mr. JD Walker, and of course, Mr. Kyle Krieger. Appreciate you, man. You guys are rock. Any other final thoughts? You think we're good?
I got one final thought. football season's over and baseball season hasn't begun yet. So I will be delving and watching plenty of hockey, not hockey, golf, and let's like hockey on grass. Golf and F1 starting pretty soon. So I'll have some reports on that going forward. So.
All right, cool. So talk about the great sport of golf there.
Heat the ball.
You'll walk a ball into a gopher hole.
Just saw that bit yesterday. Just saw it yesterday.
So back to the ball, sit in the cart. Back to the ball, sit in the cart.
Okay, you feel all right?
I
feel like you're gonna die.
You feel like you're gonna die.
I feel good.
Then we put a pool and a sandbox to mess with your ball again.
And you do this one time. 18
freaking times.
Oh, God bless you, Robin. All right, so basically, we're going to call it there on that note there. But thanks as always for tuning in. I appreciate that. I'm Scott. That, of course, is Obi there. Down below is Mr. J.D. Walker. And, of course, I can be a very clear fan of both Whose Line Is It Anyway and also Mr. Robin Williams. We have Kyle Krieger. Appreciate you all. You're fantastic. I hope this accent from a guy from Jersey is actually not that bad for the Scottishman. But anyway, take care. Stay awesome. And, I don't know, go Rangers. Go Scotland.